Hello and welcome.
Hello, thank you for having me.
I would love to have you start by telling us about yourself.
Sure. So my name is Rori. I am a triple negative breast cancer survivor. I was diagnosed in the height of the pandemic. So August 17th, 2020 was my diagnosis date, which was actually the day before my wedding anniversary. So yay. Um, so I went through the motions. I did my treatment. I finished my extended part of treatment Thanksgiving of 2021. So a little over a year that I'm out from treatment. And I live in New York. I'm out on Long Island in Comac. And yeah, I'm just very grateful to be here, very happy to help others in this sense of trying to take back their lives when it comes to their health.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I'm Jennifer Griggs. I'm a medical oncologist, and I have a passion for patient-centered care and providing high-quality information support. I think that knowledge is power for so many people, and that getting information that meets you where you're at is the best way for you to thrive. I've been an oncologist for over 25 years and with a specialty in breast oncology. And I'm so pleased to have you here to talk about really life after having had cancer. Would you like to tell us a little bit about what treatment you got? And then we'll talk
Sure.
about where you are now.
Yeah. So my treatment initially was supposed to be, quote unquote, cut and dry. At first, it was just localized to the left breast. No signs of any spread, very localized. So they wanted me to do 4 rounds of dose dense ACT. So 4 of AC, 4 of Taxol. So once I'd done that, I went in for my double mastectomy, and then that's where they found pathological remnants of micromets in one of my lymph nodes. So then that prompted them for me to go back for a full axillary lymph node dissection, which then prompted me to go for 25 rounds of radiation, followed by 6 more months of oral chemo called Xeloda. From there, I then had to wait about 2 months before I could have my reconstruction surgery. So in January 2022 is when I had my final surgery.
You've been through what we call multimodality therapy, right? You had it all: surgery, radiation therapy, chemotherapy, more chemotherapy. And here you are on the other side. I'm sure that there are some lingering effects of everything you've been through.
Yeah, definitely.
I think it's really important to acknowledge what you've been through and that it's not over, right? It feels like it's over and everybody wants it to be over, but it's not. Thank you so much for sharing. You really are, you've really been through a lot, and I just want to acknowledge that. And
Thank
now
you.
tell us where you are. What are you doing these days?
Oh boy. A whole bunch of different things. So one, I was diagnosed, I was always an athlete growing up, and because it was in COVID, I was doing really nothing but working out because I had lost my job from COVID. So I lost my job, got diagnosed with cancer, and I was just like, oh my God, like I need some sort of normalcy in my life. So I had asked my oncologist, I'm an athlete. Is it okay if I still work out? Is that safe? My whole family is, riddled with different types of cancer. So I know how chemo can affect the body. And I really didn't want to be that like quintessential cancer patient. I wanted to be stronger than it because it's already taken a big portion of my life. So my doctor was like, yeah, you can do it safely. There's actually studies that show it minimizes treatment side effects. So I was like, oh, Sign me up. Yeah. Like, how do we do this? So I learned a lot about my own body when I was going through treatment, which then piqued my interest of, well, I've always been an athlete. I've always wanted to work in the fitness industry. Why don't I do something like this? Especially if there are studies that are showing how physical activity can positively impact you during treatment. So I did a lot of studying, and I promised myself towards the end of my treatment that after my surgery, I would go back to school and I would get certified and become a trainer. Little did I know that I would have to do more treatment. So I kept my promise. And even though I had to go through more surgeries, more radiation, and more chemo, I was still in school. So I attended school virtually to the National Academy of Sports Medicine, which luckily, you know, I do have to thank COVID also for that, because without the ability to do things virtually, who knows if I would be here and doing things like this. So I got my certification in personal training, and then right before my surgery, for my reconstruction surgery, I gained a certification in cancer exercise. So I attended virtually again the Cancer Exercise Training Institute and got my certification with obviously a specialty in breast cancer. So since then, I formed my own company called FOOBS and Fitness. So I am FOOBS and Fitness, and it's kind of poetic to take this diagnosis and bring it around full circle and educate others, not just train them, but really teach them what they need to know before, during, after every part of their diagnosis, because a lot of people tend to shy away from physical activity even before a treatment diagnosis. So then you add this treatment diagnosis and you're like, I'm definitely not doing that. So just understanding kind of like what the definition of physical activity means doesn't necessarily mean exercise. There's a very vast misconception of being in a gym is what you need to be doing. So I want to educate people that that's not necessarily true when you're battling any sort of diagnosis.
Well, thank you. Your journey is really interesting. I love that you said I made a promise to myself. You know, it wasn't to anybody else. You weren't trying to show anybody. This was for you. And you called on your own experience as an athlete and how important it was to you to understand before you just did. So there's a knowledge piece and then an action piece. And I love that. Thanks for sharing that. I'd love to know what are 3 things that you wish cancer survivors and people going through cancer treatment knew about exercise?
Ooh. So the first and foremost is exercise does not mean you need to be in a gym, right? Exercise is quite different when battling cancer in particular. So my challenge to people is your mind is in a very different frame than your physical body. We mentally think that, oh, I should be able to do laundry, I should be able to do errands, I should be able to do all these things. But when you're battling things like a cancer diagnosis, your body is like, whoa, 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 whoa. No, we're going to do one thing and you're lucky to do that. So we need to kind of reframe that mindset where your body is physically attacking itself to get you better, right? So your body is only inept to obtaining as many stressors as possible. And then you add this actual physical stress of exercise, and it can feel like you've done too much. So we don't ever want you to feel that you're doing too much. So educating people to understand, you know, everyday things. If you go from your house to the mailbox and you come back and you're exhausted, you just did physical activity. You know, your body is not in that same state where it was prior to receiving all of these chemotherapies, immunotherapies, radiation. So be kind to yourself. And for people who have somebody who they're caring for, like a caregiver, be that person's cheerleader. It's really hard for us to say, no, I want to do this. I want to do this. But I'm so tired. So just be that person's cheerleader. It sucks being in this position because we're so concerned about everybody else. So just reminding us that we're doing great. This is not where we want to be ideally, but given the circumstances, you know, it's amazing what you've done so far.
I love that. So what I'm hearing is that we don't need to define exercise and movement as something strenuous. It's really just staying active, and you're imploring people to be kind to themselves and for their loved ones to be kind to them. Yep. How would you motivate somebody who's not feeling motivated? The fatigue that people have when they're going through chemotherapy is unlike any other fatigue. It's not the kind of fatigue, tell me if I'm wrong, where you take a nap and you feel rested. It's not that kind of fatigue. So how do people motivate themselves when they're beyond exhausted?
It's really hard. Even me being an athlete, there were days, especially the day that I received chemotherapy, it was like, I'm pumped through all these steroids and I'm like, do, I could do so much, and then crash immediately. But it's okay. You're listening to your body. If you hit that wall and you're like, damn, I just want to sleep forever, sleep for a little bit. There's no wrong in saying that you need to be up and moving all day long. We just don't want you sitting all day long. There's a huge difference in that. And I don't think people understand that. You need to listen to your body when you're going through treatment. Drink your water. If that doesn't, give you a little pep in your step, then you definitely are tired. So sleep. When you wake up, say to yourself, I'm going to go to the living room today. And that venture from the bedroom to the living room might exhaust you again, but at least you got up out of bed. And I think that's where a lot of people are hard on themselves because they feel like they've just gone from one bed to the next bed. But in reality, you got up, right? You're not laying in bed all day long. So as long as you get up, you'll slowly start to move around. So when I was in treatment, on the days that I just hit that wall, I slept for a long period of time. And then I get up the next day and I immediately go in the shower, drink my water, go in the shower, and I'm exhausted again. Well, I just did a lot considering the fact. So now I'm rewarding myself with grabbing some water and going to sit on the couch, play with my puppies for a little bit. And then the next commercial, maybe get up and get some more water. So just making sure that I'm hitting those checkpoints. And then eventually I got to a point where I was doing laps around my house. I would, scale the whole living room, then go to the kitchen, then go to the bedroom, and then I'd sit back down. And eventually you will get back to that point where you don't need a nap all day long. So it's those baby steps that people tend to be hard on themselves about the most.
What I'm hearing is it's not all or none. It's not, if you can't run a 5K, don't bother doing anything. It sounds like you're encouraging people to do what they can and to keep doing what they can. So if somebody was super fit beforehand and they feel like they've gotten deconditioned, to be kind, but also to keep going. And that keep going could be something small.
Yep. Yeah, I had to do a huge pivot with my exercise. I was a soccer player beforehand, and I still play soccer now, but I have limitations, and that's okay. I will get better in time. So for someone who's an athlete, I think it hits them even more, but that's okay. Pivot. You're an athlete. That's what we do. We're able to be agile and move and flow with things. So I went from being someone who is a long distance runner to working on my strength. I lifted heavier during treatment than I've ever done in my entire life. So yeah, I may not have been able to run all that far because, it takes a toll on our hearts and our lungs. But my strength, man, I was almost up to like 25 pounds in bench pressing. So it's insane what our bodies can do.
I'm hearing different kinds of exercise. There's aerobic, cardiovascular, and then strength training. There's also balance and flexibility. Can you talk about all four of those components?
So they're the pillars of your everyday life. I am a very huge advocate of corrective exercise, functional fitness, all of those things, because you need to be able to move in your everyday life without pain, without stress, without tension. You should be in a sense of fluidity, right? If that's even a word. I am a flexologist by certification. So stretching is a huge component. Our bodies need to be strong and they need to be flexible. So you need to stretch. And I know people don't have the time to stretch. It's a constant, push, pull, but you can stretch all day long. If you work with the correct person to get you back up on your feet, or me in particular, I don't anticipate this to be a forever relationship. I would love it if it was a forever relationship, but I want to teach you the tools for you to be able to do things in your normal life where you're as free as a bird, you know what that you're doing. So stretching is a huge component, making sure that range of motion, especially for breast cancer patients who are going through a lumpectomy or a mastectomy, your range of motion is going to be very inhibited afterwards. So stretching those areas and focusing on strengthening the counter areas are ideal to get prepared for surgery. That also coincides with the strength conditioning. It combats osteoporosis. A lot of things that will help you to combat the comorbidities that come from, a cancer treatment. But then there's also the aerobic activity. That helps our heart. These chemo drugs can be pretty harsh on our body. So making sure that we're hitting those goals of either 150 minutes of moderate intense activity. So like going for a walk, doing some household chores, hitting those checkpoints is key. Anything else that you do after that, you're going for gold. Good for you. And I also really, really push things like yoga and meditation because mental health is still our health, and being able to work on that, work on the brain, really control our emotions, acknowledge our emotions is so huge. So that's a lot overlooked during people's diagnosis, and it really will help even spill into the other categories of your life. And then balance training is also critical, especially if you've experienced neuropathy. Maybe you don't have the feelings in your hands or your feet. Safely being able to regain that balance is crucial to live your everyday life.
Well, thank you for going through each of those 4 pillars. What's your favorite exercise?
Okay, so Rori BC would have said aerobic, hands down. Rori AD, I don't know if that works. AC after cancer, stretching. My all-time favorite. I love stretching. It's so relaxing. And when you tie it in with your breath work, oh my God, your body is just amazing. It's so fascinating.
I love how you're jazzed up with the content as well as the experience of exercising. What advice would you give to people currently going through treatment?
Currently, circling back to that mental health, just be kind to yourself. I think a lot of us who are going through treatment, we tend to put the focus on everybody else because we don't want to focus on ourselves. Our head is down and we're in that tunnel vision. Like, I just got to get to the next checkpoint. I just have to get to the next checkpoint. Oh, I hope I feel okay to, go to my son's graduation. Oh, I just want to do this. I just want to do this. It's okay to be selfish and think about yourself. It's implored to actually do that. So remember that you can't pour from an empty glass, and that's very cliche, but you need to take time to yourself. And if you need to take a bath one day and just shut all the lights and tell everyone to go to hell and leave you alone, you have every right to do that.
It sounds like exercise to you does more than just help the body. It sounds like it helps your spirits and your mind and even social, your social health, how you relate to other people. Is there a story you can share with us?
Yeah. Oh my God, I have so many stories. So for me, being an athlete, it was always about a stress release, right? I'm going for a run. I'm stressed. I just need to get away for a little bit and clear my head. And that's pretty obvious for most people. But for me, I was always in a gym setting. watching other people, what they're doing. I would go up to people and ask them questions. I'm very curious on why people do what they do and learning. And it's this sort of family that you get into. And especially with these boutique fitness centers, you go to the same class, you see the same people, and you see the same teacher, and you develop this relationship. And it is an escape physically, mentally. You're challenging yourself. You're putting yourself through the ringer just to feel better. And I have never spoken to one person who has had a bad workout. There's workouts that we do where we're, not feeling our strongest, we're pushing through, but I've never heard anyone say that they felt like crap afterwards. You're releasing those endorphins, you're feeling better about yourself. And I saw that through treatment. I was so hard on myself because I saw those miles go from like a 5-mile run to a 3-mile run to barely making it a mile. And it took a lot of my fitness friends to cheer me on and say, you're still doing great. You're doing awesome. Do you want us to come over? We'll do some strengthening instead. You want to go for a walk? It's really nice out. And just having that support system during COVID, where nobody was really supposed to be around, and being outside and learning new and different things was something I'd never probably be able to do without cancer, really.
Sounds like variety is an important part of exercise. We talked about the 4 pillars, but I'm hearing and quite moved that you were expanding your exercise repertoire when you were going through treatment.
Yeah, there's a running joke beforehand, like I was so much on the go, 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 go. It was like I was always on pre-workout. I just had this like very high intense where I just wanted to go. And I had tried yoga at one point before I got diagnosed. I was like, I can't do this. This is dumb. Why would anyone just want to breathe? And now I couldn't do anything as far as cardio, but then I turned on a YouTube channel, and I found that it was actually so beneficial. So I immediately was like, oh, I regret this. I should have been doing this a long time ago. So it's interesting to see how different modalities play during the different various stages of our lives.
I think that's such a good reminder that where are you now? What can you do now? And not holding up some ideal as to what you should be doing or maybe what you did before. It sounds like that was a growth opportunity for you.
Yes, very much so, or else I would have been very bored.
The things we haven't covered that you'd like to share, a question I haven't asked.
Honestly, this whole journey, my mom has called me her phoenix during this entire process. And I think that is a very beautiful way of looking at things, because I'm very much the type of person to look at the silver lining. I used to be very negative Nancy and what if, why me? And none of that really does you any good. So having this cancer diagnosis has really reframed the way that I think about things. And that's a very hard thing for people to do. But if you acknowledge that there will always be a negative component to your life, but focus on the positive part of it, even if it's just a little sliver, there's still something positive there. And I know a lot of other people may not agree with me when I say these things, but I died when I got that cancer diagnosis. I may still have the Rori that I've always known inside me, but I have a way different perspective on life now. I have way more patience, way more grace for humankind. And if you look at it in the sense of becoming a phoenix, that's absolutely beautiful. Like, you have this power that you've literally died. You've transformed into this ash, but you haven't let it be your end. And you're here on the other side. Light that spark and find what makes you happy and don't lose it.
Thank you so much for that. How can people find you?
I'm all over social media, so depending on what you like, I'm on Instagram and Facebook at FOOBS and Fitness. My website is www.foobsandfitness.com. If you want to see some silly dances, I'm on TikTok as well. Embarrassingly enough, but whatever. So everything is Foobs and Fitness. Foobs is in fake boobs, and I'm very proud of them.
Well, thank you so much. This has been really great and inspiring and really helpful for people who are part of the Yerbba family. Thank you so much, Rori.
Absolutely. This is an absolute honor. Thank you for inviting me.